All I can say is that the fake news just doesn't get it, do they?
So, the fake news, they're terrible every single day. They were especially bad last year. You know, at the very least, they're supposed to give the candidates a hard time. I mean, really investigate from top to bottom. As you know, they gave Joe Biden a great big pass. We didn't, and we still refuse to. So, we call it the vetting of Joe Biden.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
And it continues. I'll call this a little bit of a follow-up. Joe Biden was asked rather politely about his capacities during the campaign. Listen to his answer and note the cockiness.
I want to turn to the blistering attacks we've seen from President Trump just this week alone on your mental fitness, whether you're up for the job. His campaign has called you diminished, and I'm curious how you would respond to that.
Watch me, Mr. President, watch me. Look at us both, what we say, what we do, what we control, what we know, what kind of shape we're in. Come on. Look, I think it's a legitimate question to ask anybody over 70 years old whether or not they're fit and whether they're ready. But only thing I can say to the American people, it's a legitimate question to ask anybody. Watch me.
Watch me. Well, Joe, we've been watching, and it's not pretty. Even Democrats admit they have to. You're not up for this job. We've seen you. You look terrible. I'm sorry, but you're falling down all over the place. You're not making sense. You are in way over your head. You said it. Watch you. And now we've had some time to watch you, and you got a big problem. Where's the follow-up from the fake news? There's the video. Here's a little more of Joe.
Citizens of our allies who went in with us. Civilians and vulnerable Afghanis. Going to seek excuse me. Thank you, guys.
All right. Hey, Joe, we're watching. We're doing what you said. We're watching. You're the most famous man in the world, kinda. We're watching. And it's bad. You know it's bad. Everybody can see it's bad. Even though they really do try to cover up for you, the fake news and the executive branch of the federal government. You know, Joe got his booster, the booster for the vaccine. It looked like he got it in the White House. That's what I thought. Hey, I'm just a chump. I'm looking at, that looks like the Rose Garden behind him, right? It's not. Did you see this? I guess he had to go to a clinic, a medical clinic. Maybe it was Walter Reed. They set it up to look like the White House. They didn't want anybody to know that Joe was at the hospital. I mean, that's pretty deceptive, don't you think? I think it's terrible. I think it's really, really terrible. Meanwhile, you know we've got a huge problem at the southern border, and all the left-wing media really seem to care about lately, and Democrats in Congress, the horses. And that spectacle, I thought it was totally fine. I think those cowboys are heroes. What about the drugs? When you see the crowds, you see all the people coming into our country, do you think some of them might be carrying some drugs? You know, getting drugs into America used to be really hard. People would swallow the drugs. People would fly on airplanes, Cessnas at low altitude, land on dirt airstrips in the middle of nowhere. It was really dicey. Since it's like come right in, I think it's safe to assume that the drugs are pouring into this country, and that's not good. We have a serious, serious drug problem. It's getting worse. Everybody knows it. Drug addiction is through the roof. We're seeing opioid deaths left and right. This is a huge problem, and guess who was passionate about it? Guess who made it a cornerstone of his campaign for the presidency and his presidency? Yes, our favorite guy.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Everybody went crazy about how politically incorrect that was, but it's true. It's true. And there are people bringing child brides into the country, and of course, drugs. And all that they care about are the horses. Kind of weird, huh? All right, take a look at this.
God bless Texas.
Texas. People love Texas. Right, Texas. Great place. I never lived there. Been there many times. So there's a big race going on for lieutenant governor. And the new candidate is a guy named Matthew Dowd. You know this guy? He's a great big swamp snake. He used to work for George W. Bush. He helped sell the war in Iraq. Then he found his conscience and he turned his back on George W. Bush. He became an independent. Now he's essentially a Democrat. He became a darling of the fake news every week on ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos. This is something he wrote a couple of years ago. 2018. I don't think this is going to fly in Texas, do you? Us white male Christians need to step back and give others room to lead. He actually wrote this, and I think it's pretty offensive. I want to show you what's inside. We as white male Christians should do what real leadership demands and practice a level of humility which demonstrates strength by stepping back from the center of the room and begin to give up our seats at the table. That to me sounds like surrender, by the way, as I have watched the last week of disruption and drama in Washington. Who knows what he was talking about? It was 2018. Lots was going on. A major part of this world, a major part would have been avoided if white male Christians had been more ready to step back, readily step back, and turn over leadership to those who are not the same sex or the same color or the same religion as us. We don't need to be the ones who dominate conversations and run the meetings. Well, that's usually, we already know who's the boss usually. I don't know what that's about. We know it is morally right, and it is what would help America in this troubling time. If I myself can do a much better job of this in both my personal and professional life, I don't need to always speak up or try to run meetings I happen to be in. I should interrupt less and let others from diverse backgrounds share their thoughts. Are you nauseated yet? I'm sorry. Part of the mission as white male Christians is to practice real leadership by letting others step up while we step back. All right. Easy for him to say. Obviously, his faith doesn't mean much to him because, well, Christians like to share the good news. And also, I take it that he's already made his money, he's made his name, and now he, I don't know. But this guy, I don't think Texas has changed all that much. This shouldn't fly for anybody, whatever your religion. You got to be who you are, all right? All right. I want to show you this also. Another swamp snake who wants to be not lieutenant governor, but governor of Virginia. Again, he was already governor. It's Terry McAuliffe. And he doesn't think parents should have a say in school curriculums or anything related to the classroom. It's true. He said it.
And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Wow, that is a radical statement. Local school boards, local parental input, and he says no. That's a problem, Virginia, and I hope Virginia does the right thing. Wow. The debate, by the way, was moderated by Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd of the fake news, and Chuck Todd, he loves shutting down people, especially Republicans. He does that pretty well.
Senator,
So
all right, I've had enough of hearing this.
No, listen, I've had enough of this too.
Just
really,
because you have somebody say it didn't make it true.
It's easy.
Senator,
It's
none of
easy.
these allegations. Stop. You don't get to make these allegations that haven't.
When I say he does it well, it's a backhanded compliment, all right? He has disgraced himself in these formats. But it was very interesting. At that debate, he was moderating. He's in charge of maintaining decorum. Somehow, a guy who's so ready to shut up Republicans was just overwhelmed in the moment, didn't know what to do when a heckler stood up and started saying stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Youngkin.
I am a candidate on the ballot. Terry, why am I not allowed on the stage? As governor, I will defund the police.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's give this a minute.
What's your
Well,
I agree.
All right. Thank you.
So why is he not doing what he did to Senator Johnson so freely? I mean, that's his job, to maintain order. And I watched his face, and I listened carefully, and I realized, well, he's not afraid to go after a white Christian male, right? We just heard from some of his swamp friends that white Christian males are, well, there's nothing less cool than being a white Christian male. So I assumed that this wasn't a male and probably not a white person, and I was right. It happened to be an African-American woman, and I believe that is a reason why Chuck Todd was so reticent. A lot of people, oh my gosh, I don't want to be considered. Now, a little bit about her. She's actually running for governor herself. She probably should have been allowed into the forum to begin with. She wasn't. She was frustrated, and she spoke out.
I just made it very clear that I am a candidate to let Virginians know that their censorship of my candidacy is racist. It is very sexist. It is very oppressive. And it's a form of voter suppression.
So her name is Princess Blanding, and she is running for governor. And not exactly sure why she was prevented from participating, but she probably deserved a podium, a seat at the table. But she probably shouldn't have spoken up. But Chuck Todd, don't be afraid to quiet down rude behavior from the audience, okay? You're allowed to, no matter what their color or gender, all right? Don't just be mean to white Christian men from Wisconsin.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.